Hi, it's Jenny with Jenny's Wreath Boutique, and in this video I'm going to share with you a compilation of some of my favorite spring wreath tutorials here on YouTube. So sit back, get some coffee, maybe work on a project while you watch and enjoy. In this video I'm going to show you exactly how to make a beautiful spring floral wreath. This wreath is so simple to make and it looks so beautiful. I'm so excited to show you. The materials you're going to need for this wreath are a 14-inch grapevine wreath, one bunch of this mixed eucalyptus and fern, I got this at Hobby Lobby, and one flower bunch. This is a bunch I got from Wreaths, which was the wholesaler for Michael's, which is now closed, but you can find a bunch like this at Michael's. And if you can't find these exact ones, the same rules that I'm going to teach you today apply. And I know Hobby Lobby has a really great selection of flower bunches in different colors and things like that. So if you can't find these exact same ones at Michael's, there's always other colors. So keep that in mind. Also to keep in mind is, since we're making this on a 14-inch wreath, you will need more florals and more greenery if you're making this on a larger size wreath. You're also going to need some wire cutters, as my hot glue gun and my hot glue also listed in the description if you're curious about exactly what kind I use. The first thing we're going to do is clean up our grapevine wreath. Now that our grapevine wreath is cleaned up, we are going to take apart all the pieces of our greenery. I use the same greenery mix. I don't know if you've noticed, but this is the same greenery mix that I used in my year-round wreath tutorial. And a lot of you have found me through that video. And yeah, we're using the same greenery. I like to cut it apart. And while I'm cutting it apart, I just separate into little piles of the different kinds of greenery. Now that our mix is taken apart, I'm just going to glue it around the wreath. Glue the stem, add it to the grapevine along the grain, and we're just going to be filling in our grapevine. This is just providing a nice greenery base before we put our florals on. And if you're worried about greenery costing too much, this is a great way to use less of it and have more of a floral wreath to save some money. Now I'm going to use these ferns and stick them around. There's only 4 of them, so it won't be perfectly even with these. Now what we're going to do is separate our flowers. So we have roses, peonies, and hydrangeas, and this beautiful baby's breath looking flower. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it's beautiful. And then of course we have all these beautiful light green peony leaves. So I'm going to take them apart and separate them just like before. I love getting mixes like this because it takes a lot of the guesswork out of making a floral wreath like this, because everything goes so well together. And I like to leave the leaves on the flowers because the leaves are really going to help fill out the wreath. Now that our florals are all taken apart, we are going to add the largest flowers first and then fill in with the smaller flowers. And make sure these leaves are really covering up the grapevine. Because you won't have to use quite as many materials if you have good sized leaves covering up the grapevine. It is a great filler. We're going to put the 2 larger flowers on opposite ends to even out the wreath, like this. Now we're going to move on to our next flower, which is roses next. So I have 3 roses that are big and 3 that are small, so I'm going to evenly distribute them throughout the grapevine. Now we're going to use the hydrangeas. There are 3 large-ish, they're not large, they're all very small, but there's 3 that are a little bit bigger and 2 that are smaller. So I'm going to use the 3 larger ones first. I'm going to steal the leaves from the baby's breath and put it on the hydrangeas. There we go. Okay, and now we're going to add our other hydrangeas. On opposite ends of each other. And now at last we have our smaller roses. I have 1 with leaves left. These leaves are so important. Before I add in the baby's breath, I'm actually going to add these 2 where I see gaps. And of course they're going to be opposite each other. So I'm going to add 1 here. And then another one over here. Kind of underneath everything, just filling up that base area. And now we're going to add the baby's breath, and it's so pretty. I love it. And if you want to go further and make this wreath a little more floral heavy and really cover up the grapevine even more, you can add another bunch of hydrangeas. I have these from Hobby Lobby, got them on clearance last spring. And what you do is you just push the leaves up and snip. I'm just going to take a few of these. I love hydrangeas. One of my favorite summer flowers. And I want to grow hydrangeas in my garden just so I can have fresh hydrangeas in my house, and in the fall I can take the dead hydrangeas and make wreaths out of them. Oh, that's so pretty. I think I'm going to add in 5 hydrangeas so it looks even throughout the wreath. It really fills it out a lot more, especially when you add it next to your other hydrangeas. Oh, that looks so much better with the extra hydrangeas. I'm so glad I added those. So cute. So here is the finished product. What do you think? I love how it turned out. It's so bright and pretty for spring. This would make a great Mother's Day gift or Easter gift. So cute. Yay! So cute. All right, I will see you guys in the next video. And in this video, we're going to be making a beautiful spring wreath. or summer wreath or any time of year. Okay, so this wreath is going to be great if you're wanting to make your mom a gift for Mother's Day, or you just want to brighten up your front door for spring, or give your friend or neighbor a housewarming gift, anything like that. This wreath is so perfect for it. So let's get into the materials. The materials you're going to need for this wreath are a grapevine. I am using a 14-inch, but you can use an 18-inch if you want it for a bigger door. You're also going to need some ribbon for our bow. And this is from Michael's. I love this. Isn't that pretty with the gold? I love it. Scissors and a pipe cleaner. That will be for the bow. And then I have an assortment of greenery. We've got some lamb's ear and some olives, olive leaves, olive branches. Then a main flower. This is beautiful peony. I love the colors. Isn't that pretty? I have an assortment of other flowers. I have this mix here. It's got dahlia and some other wildflowers. And I have these tulips. I thought they matched really well with this peony. I also have these berries, also from Michael's. And if you ever want to know where I get all my wreath making supplies, I have a cheat sheet linked in the description because this all came from all different kinds of places. All right, the first thing we're going to do is make our bow. And speaking of bows, I also have a free bow making tutorial on exactly how I make my classic bow, and that is also linked in the description if you'd like that. So I'm just going to make my bow really quickly. So here's our bow. Don't you just love this cream colored ribbon with the gold dots? I love polka dots, especially in spring. I'm just going to give these tails a quick cut at the bottom. I can always change the length later. Now we have our bow. We need to trim up our grapevine first. Since this wreath is going to have an exposed grapevine, we want the grapevine to look nice and tidy. So now we're going to place our, we're not going to actually place our bow, we're just going to put it here to get a good look at where we want it. And I think that's pretty good. And then we're just going to keep that spot in mind, but we're not going to place the bow yet. We're going to start with our greenery base. And of course, I love using lamb's ear in the spring. So here it is. So I'm going to just place my lamb's ear. So where did I say this was? So it's going to be coming out there. Okay, I am going to use a little bit of floral wire here just to tie that down a little bit. If you need something to stay in place, you just need a little floral wire. Now I'm going to add the next piece of lamb's ear back here. Ow, I glued myself. Now we're going to do the same thing over here. And this is just giving us a nice base for our wreath, a nice greenery base. Isn't that pretty? One of my favorite color combinations is this peachy color with the lamb's ear, that sagey green and that coral peachy color. Oh, I love it so much. All right, next we're going to grab our olives, cut a few pieces off. I'm not going to need this whole thing. And I love the interest that these berries give. Aren't those cute? I love those. It just keeps the wreath a little more interesting, having more than one kind of greenery. I love the different textures, but the colors are kind of similar. So I'm just going to mix that right in there, right in between the two pieces of lamb's ear there. Same as over here. Maybe a piece back here. Because we don't want to leave this spot bald. We need to put stuff there too. Oops, it's not dry yet. Okay, now I'm going to add my flower right behind where the bow is going to go. So right back here. So now we're going to add our accent flowers now that we have our main flower. So we have 2 accent flowers. So this is actually going to be a one-of-a-kind wreath that I only have 1 of. And it will be available in my shop if you would rather just have me make it for you, but I only have 1 available. So I'm just going to sprinkle these over here to get that color moved down. And then we're going to add in these beautiful things. I think at this point I am going to put my bow in. So we have these 2 wires and we just put them in between the grapevine and then tie it in the back. Just tying that, twisting it in the back. And you can use floral wire, it will hide better. I just like the grip of the pipe cleaner. It just helps me, makes it easier. I like to keep things simple. All right. Oh, that bow is so cute. I just love this ribbon so much. I'm going to add 1 more piece of lamb's ear because it needs something right here. Okay, and now I'm going to use this color right here. And we're just sticking that along the grain of the grapevine so it has a good hold. I just glue the stem and stick it in the grapevine, just like that. Now I'm going to add a little bit more olive branches just to bring the greenery around more. Oh, they're so pretty. Perfect for spring. I'll just add a few just to fill it in a little bit. I really want to add in a few more beautiful, colorful pieces in my shop for Mother's Day. So pretty soon I will be using up a bunch of my florals and making one of a kind or just a few of one kind of wreath for Mother's Day to stock my shop. So let me know if you want me to include that in a video. I did one of those in the fall and it was really fun. I made, I think, 4 different fall wreaths, and I kind of just showed you my process of using up florals that I have and making room for the next season. Plus it's a great way to stock your shop. So if you are interested in me doing a spring version of that video, let me know, and I probably will. Okay, let's get some flowers back here. We don't want to neglect the back. This is so pretty. Okay, now I do want to add a little bit of that white creamy color back into the wreath because it's just on the bow right now. So I think that's the perfect way to use these berries, and we won't use too many. So pretty. I often pick up the greenery and the floral so I can nestle things underneath. It gives it such a full look and it really mixes everything in well. And since I have some on the bottom over here, I'll put some over here. Then I think we'll be done. Stick it in the grapevine. So much texture, I love it. All right. Now I'm just going to cut these ribbons a tad. I like to just cut them at a slant, but you can dovetail them if you want. When you dovetail, you just fold it and cut it at an angle, but I like just to do the simple slant. Fluff up my bow. There you have it. Here it is. I love it. I think it's so cute. I'm going to show you exactly how I make my beautiful tulip wreaths. I'm so excited. These are very popular in my shop every spring, and I'm so excited to teach you guys how I make it. The materials you're going to need to make this wreath are a grapevine wreath base. This is a 14-inch, which makes about a 20-inch total finished wreath size. You're going to need a bunch of tulips. These tulips are from Michael's. I'm using about 12 bushes for this particular wreath size. You can pick out whatever colors you want, but Michael's has lots of different color options, and I've made lots of different options. There are a lot of tulip wreath tutorials out there, but I haven't seen one that does it exactly like I do. So I'm excited to share exactly how I make these. So they're really sturdy and beautiful from the front and the back. And yeah, and the next thing we're gonna do is prep our tulips. I go a little bit above and beyond for this part, just so the wreath is really sturdy. Some of these tulips are a little fragile and the bushes can have loose tulip heads, so we want to make sure each tulip is nice and secure. So what we're going to do to prep our tulips is push the leaves up to the top and cut the stem. We're going to do this for all of them. And then I like to pull on it a little bit. If it comes off at all easily, then I just dab some glue in that little hole there. And then I stick it back on. You don't have to do that, but it's an extra step I take just to make sure the wreath is really nice and isn't going to fall apart on either my friend or my customers or anybody like that. You don't have to do that, but it's something I like to do. And I also pull on the little tulip heads to make sure they don't come off, and these are good. But if they pop off, I will show you exactly what I do once I get to that. So I'm just going to keep on doing this. Prepping our tulips is such an important step that a lot of people don't do, and it's a shame because this is just going to make your wreath that much higher quality. Pulling on the tulip heads, wow, these are pretty good. This part actually takes about as long as making the actual wreath. So if you're in a hurry and you aren't a fan of tedious work, you can always skip this step, especially if the wreath is just for your own door. You can just fix it as things fall off. Hopefully they don't, but if they do, you already have a glue gun and can fix it. But I would be absolutely mortified if that ever happened to a customer of mine, if anything fell off their wreath. Oh, so I just want to make sure these are extra secure. I love spring so much. It brings me so much joy when I see how my flowers are coming up every year. I love it. Do you have any tulips in your yard? I have some really light pink tulips and I have some dark purple ones. Oh, they're so gorgeous. And then this last fall, my daughter and I planted a bunch of pink ones that are very similar to this size. I love getting the big bags at Costco in the fall because they're such a great deal and you get a lot. These tulips are $3.99 a piece at Michael's. The tulip bushes, each bush is $3.99. And then I usually wait until they are half off before I buy them. Sometimes you can find them half off and have another coupon that stacks on top of that, that's like 20% off your entire order. Then you can really get a good deal, especially since you're using so many bushes in one wreath. Any amount you can save is great. Sometimes you'll find one that it's missing a tulip head, so I will just set those aside, and I'm always finding loose tulip heads around. Sometimes it's in the bag or in the bottom of the box, or it could just be lost, and then I will put all my tulip pieces that are missing a tulip head and I will condense them so I'm not wasting anything. I actually have a bin of things that are like this, so I will go to that if I need to. It's nice because I have one place where I put all the tulip heads I find, because I know I'm going to be running into pieces that are needing one. All of these extra little things might seem silly or too time consuming, but it's going to make your overall wreath look so much better. Now the tulips are all prepped and ready for the fun part. All we have to do is take our tulips, whichever color you want to start with, and add some glue to the stem and then put it along the grain of the grapevine and then pick the next color. Same thing. This is easier, of course, with a tighter grapevine like this one. If it's more open, airy grapevine, it's a little more difficult, but this one's pretty good. I like to put the wonky ones in the middle, so I'm going to save this for a middle piece, because if I put it on the outside, it'll just flop around. But if I put it in the middle, the other tulips will prop it up. So for this one, I like to put the nicer tulips on the outside. And you just need about 3 rows, and then you alternate colors. And you go layered on top of the ones behind it. So that way you don't have to pick up tulips until the very end. So we're just going every other, and I like to rotate the ones where they have the long grassy pieces, so that's evenly distributed. Yeah. So I'm just going to continue on this process until I am all the way to the end. I am putting these like at an angle in the grapevine like this, so that we're not having a bunch of pieces stick out the back. I mean, you can still see them, but they're not sticking out. So don't just poke it in like this. That would be not good. And they won't stay in as well. This gives it lots of surface area to touch the grapevine and take hold with the glue. Lift up the tulips a little bit so we don't get glue on them, and then just slide in the tulip picks so it makes a nice seamless wreath. I actually ended up using only 10 bushes of tulips instead of 12, so that's nice. And here it is, all finished. Isn't this adorable? I just love that bright pink. It's so perfect for spring. And this makes such a fun Mother's Day gift you could make for a friend or your mom or your mother-in-law or whatever mom you know and love. I hope you liked it too. And let me know what colors would be your favorite for tulips. I love the pink, obviously. In this video, we're going to be making a beautiful spring floral wreath on a grapevine. First, let's go over the materials for this wreath. I'm using a 14-inch grapevine. I'm using a ruscus stem, and this one is such good quality. I love it so much. Look at that beautiful leaf structure. So cute. The focal point for this wreath is our pink peony. This was in last week's wholesale unboxing. Isn't it gorgeous? Oh, I love it so much. We're also going to be using some dogwood. These are also from wholesale. I love them so much. They're so delicate and they have a nice branchy structure, and they really complement this. Oh, I love it together. We're using one white anemone. I love that dramatic dark circle. This is also from our wholesale unboxing from last week. I have 2 stems of eucalyptus, seeded eucalyptus, really good quality. I love these and use them all the time. Maidenhair fern, love them. A couple sedum, and these are super realistic, and look at that purpley pink magenta color. Oh, I love them. Then we have some little Dusty Miller with some pink berries on the top. It's a different kind of Dusty Miller, but it really complements the peony. And then we have a white cabbage rose. So pretty. One of these. So for this, I just cut up the ruscus stem. If you order a kit, I'll have it cut up for you to make things easier. And this is going to be a wreath where we have an exposed grapevine. So I'm going to be putting all the materials on one side, and you can hang it many different ways. The first thing is we're going to add our first layer of greenery. All right, the first thing we're going to do is glue our stems. I'm starting up here. We're just getting the overall shape of our grapevine. Like I said, this is going to come like so. So I start on the top, and then I will add a piece to the bottom. Don't be afraid to let your florals stick out from the grapevine. It looks so pretty. And this one's going to go more toward the middle. And then this one toward the bottom. Look, see how this one just naturally flows along the grapevine, so that's a perfect spot. So we're gluing and we're putting them into the grapevine along the grain sideways so nothing sticks out the back. And then this one, just the piece at the bottom, goes right in the middle. Now we're going to add our second layer of greenery, and this is the maidenhair fern, and it's naturally kind of droopy, which is good for this kind of wreath because it naturally drapes the way gravity pulls it down, obviously. So there are dark green and light green. So I'm just going to add in the dark green first. I like to add at the top and then the bottom and then in between. Now we're going to add our 2 pieces of eucalyptus. I kept these together. You can separate these stems as well if you want more control, but I like just keeping them together. And you can twist the leaves around so more of them point forward if you like. And if one falls off, just glue it back on. Sometimes these can fall off, but oh, look at that quality. It's so pretty. So I'm just going to add this. So there's the middle. I'm going to go up a few inches from the middle and place the stem in. And then you can just bend the leaves around. So we have one that sticks kind of up and one that bends around a little bit. And we'll do the same for the bottom. So I separated the peony so that I have the main flower and the bud. And this is why I like to order, when they have a stem, I like to order them if they at least have one other flower or a bud so that I can place the one in the middle and then bring that exact color up somewhere else in the wreath. It just really helps the wreath be really cohesive. And then I took the other leaves off and added a tulip trash stem, or you can just keep the original stem. I'm going to add this, since we're missing a little, not missing, but we could use some greenery back here. I'm just going to add the peony greenery right there, and the other one right in the middle. And you can stick the stem in straight, and then you can bend the top however you like. Same goes for this. You stick it into the grapevine and then you bend it forward. So this is our focal point. I'd like it to be somewhat in the middle. So now that we've added all our greenery, I'm adding my main flower. So pretty. that's there, I'm going to add these, and look how just they complement that. That brings that pink color up here. So I'll add this. I love it. Now I'm going to add our peony bud just up here a little bit. And now, before I add the other pieces in the middle, I'm going to add these, and this just really brings another texture, another flower, and brings the color around. Now I'm going to add in the sedum stems. I'm going to add one down here toward the bottom. And it really just adds a beautiful texture and interest. I love sedum. So great. And then I'll add another one on top. And we'll add our white cabbage rose right there. And then just a little touch of drama with the black. There. I'm going to add one more pink flower up here. And there you have it. Isn't it gorgeous? Oh, I love it. And you can hang it like this. You can hang it like this, any way you want. Oh my gosh, it's so pretty. I love it. And just, you can keep fluffing with it. All right. I love how it turned out. Let me know what you think. And in this video, I'm going to teach you how to make a beautiful spring floral wreath. You're going to be using a 14-inch grapevine. You can use whatever size you like, but I like starting with this size. We're going to be using some ferns from Hobby Lobby. I love these. They're so great. And then some lavender sprays. These are so cute for spring. I just love that bright greenery and of course the purple. And then I have this gorgeous floral mix. I just have 2 bouquets of this. I've kind of been hoarding it because the quality is so good. But I thought this would mix really well together. If you are curious where I get all my wreath making supplies, I have a free cheat sheet linked in the description where I list out my favorite places to get it, both retail and wholesale. So if you haven't grabbed that yet, it's a great resource for you. I'm also going to be using this little boxwood bush from Hobby Lobby with little white flowers on the end. Isn't that cute? I love it. I'm also using a fern. This one's from Hobby Lobby, but you can get these from Michael's or really anywhere. It's just a nice fern. The first thing I'm going to do is cut this bush apart. Actually, it comes apart pretty easily on its own. So this is our first layer of greenery, and I'm just going to cut the stems a little so the really thin part isn't there anymore. And this is our first greenery layer, so I'm going to add this in first so you can easily find it. So I'm just gluing the stem and gluing it along the grain of the grapevine so nothing sticks out the back. I love using grapevines because the back always looks so nice and pretty. But you can't say that for every kind of wreath base, but you can say it for grapevines if you have the stems going along the grapevine and not all poking through the back. And I'm just doing a thin layer of the fern, just using one bush. If you watched my video on my money saving tips, my top 5 money saving tips for wreath making, this is a perfect example of using an inexpensive greenery as your first base layer. The quality is good, so I'm very picky with all of my fillers. So this one is a good mix of quality and a pretty low price for what you get. So this is that tip in action. Now we're going to add our next greenery, which is this bush. And I love that ferny texture. And it really has the same kind of idea with really sharp, narrow greenery. And I thought it just matched this so well. So I'm using an extra piece from another project. And then this already had 2 pieces taken off. I'm going to use up this first. And then if I need any more, I will use up the new bush. These are nice because you can kind of push the greenery up to where you like it, so you have a nice little pick on the end. And we are just going to kind of fill in the gaps in between the fern. This greenery is also a pretty nice and inexpensive filler I like to keep on hand. Okay, now that we have our greenery base layer, I'm going to add in 3 sprays of this lavender mix. And you can find mixes like this in any color you like. I'm really liking the purple right now. It's so pretty. Purple and white is just one of my favorite color combos for spring. I love it so much. All right, so each of these is a little different, so I'm going to separate them into like kinds. I make sure they're evenly distributed around, makes the wreath look more cohesive and even throughout. Now we're just going to glue these into the wreath. Isn't that so pretty so far? I love it. Nice and simple. Now I'm going to separate this bouquet. Oh man, look at those scabiosas and the veronica and the clematis. Ooh, I love it. And I'm separating these so we have this flower throughout the wreath. We already have 3 of these scabiosas. Look at that quality. So pretty. We only have 2 of the clematis. We have 3 of these, so that's good. And then we have 2 of these, but I can make it into 3, I think. So I'm going to start with our clematis and just put those opposite each other. And then since we have 4 pieces of these, I can put 2 in between each clematis. And now everything else we have 3 of. So I'll start with the purple. Now our scabiosa goes right in between the white flowers. And of course you can do this with any color combination, any floral bushes that really go well together. I'm just using what I have to show you. I really like these colors, like I said earlier. But don't fret if you can't find the exact things I have. Just use what you have available. I teach that in my VIP group all the time because there's people from all around the world in there that don't have access to all the same supplies I have. So I try to teach, use what you have available to you and use these principles that I'm teaching. I'm just going to fill in the couple gaps that I see with the extra greenery I have. My bush is already cut up, so I'm just going to add our final touch. I love this. So I'm going to add in these little pieces, and it's amazing how just adding one more thing just really brings everything together. Kind of brightens up the greenery space. Ooh. All right, here it is. What do you think of everything together? I just love how it turned out so much. It's so pretty and bright for spring. And I think these little white flowers are just the perfect touch to add at the end to bring everything together. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a beautiful, brightly colored spring and summer wreath. Let's go over the materials you're going to need. We are using a 14-inch grapevine. We're going to be using some ruscus. I love these. This is one of my favorite greeneries to use, and I just actually started listing these in my Etsy shop because this is an item I get wholesale and not retail. So if you just want this greenery and you have other options for this, I have this greenery available in my Etsy shop as well. We're also going to be using some button leaf spray. Got 3 stems of this. Little daisies. I'm obsessed with these. They're so fun for spring and summer. I have 1 stem and then 1 bunch from another stem. I have these brightly colored anemones. Aren't those beautiful? They're like a coral with that deep middle. These are what inspired this wreath. So these are so fun. And then to go with that, here we have a fireworks bush. Aren't these so cute? I love these two together. This really kind of ties it all back to each other. And then also with that color, you can see it in these berries or pods. I'm not sure exactly what they're called, but I love these. They're so fun and they have such a good texture. I love it because so I have these yellow thistle, these flowers, and see how these things just kind of bring the two together. They have both colors in it. I like to have an element like that in my wreath designs. And then I'm just using a few stems of this button leaf spray. It's a ferny thing. I'm only using 3 and I'm going to be cutting them in half. I'll show you that in a little bit so that they're not quite as thick, and that way we only need 3. And for another pop of fun spring color, I have these berries. They are spike berries. Okay, so they've got these white dots on the leaves and they've got these little fuzzy little hairs on the berries, which I don't mind. That's just how they came, but I just love that bright blue color. They really pop. I love them. First, we're going to be using our ruscus. So I've got some pieces with 3, 3, 2, and 3. So I'm going to do that with both bushes. These are such good quality, and I use them year-round. I use them in year-round wreaths. I use it in Christmas wreaths even. I have a hoop wreath tutorial in my VIP group that is so cute, and it uses these with some evergreens. So it's great for any time of year. It's just such a good staple greenery. So I'm going to be adding this all around the wreath. This wreath is going to be a full coverage wreath. So I'm just gluing along the stem, putting it in the grapevine, along the grain. Oops. So it lays pretty flat against the grapevine. And this wreath is going to be about 21 to 22 inches in total diameter at the end, so it's perfect for a regular size front door. I didn't space these very well. So I'm just going to cut them a little bit and spread them where I see any spaces. Ideally, I would have spaced them perfectly so it's all even, but it doesn't always end up that way. So what I do is I just go back. I usually cut them up so I can spread them around. I just go back and fill in where there might be any gaps or where it could thicken up a little. Or you could just save those pieces for the next wreath if you don't need them. I'm going to use them up here. Leaf tip to leaf tip is how I measure. Okay, so if you're going all the way leaf tip to leaf tip, it's more like 24, 25 inches. But I think this is going to be the furthest greenery that goes out. So just from a 14-inch grapevine, you're going to be making a pretty good size wreath. And it all depends on how you lay out your greenery too, because I put most of these right in the middle. Now we're going to add these, and I'm going to cut them right in half just so we have chunk on the bottom and a chunk up there. I'm going to cut it right here. So right there. And that will give us 6 pieces. And all we're going to do for this is spread it out evenly along the wreath. And this is a greenery that I got a while ago, and I kind of didn't like it at first when I first saw it, but the more I use it, the more I love it. It's got such a fun little unique texture. It is really great if you want like a darker green mixed with a lighter green. It blends really well. And it's got great sturdy small stems that are perfect for adding into a grapevine. Next, we're going to be using these, and like I said earlier, I'm going to cut each of them in half. So I'll have 6 pieces, and I will put them in between each of these little button leaves. I think these are called button leaf, and these are called rounded leaf. Something like that. It just looks like a fern to me. So if you put them in like this doesn't give it much of a stem. I should have moved that back, but that's okay. And if you're worried about these staying on, just dab a little bit of glue at the top, and that'll glue it to the stem so those top leaves won't pull off. And that's a great way to get more bang for your buck out of things like this. Whereas I didn't want a huge clump of these together. I wanted more sporadically, so this is the perfect way to do it. So I just move the bottom 3 leaves down. And then I glue that top one on. And you don't have to do that, but I like to. Okay, so I'm just going to rotate the top piece. It doesn't really matter, but just for consistency's sake, I will rotate the top piece and the bottom piece right in between our last layer of greenery that we put down. And this is going to add that pretty ferny, grassy texture. And it keeps the wreath really interesting. Sometimes I like to fluff everything out a little bit. Okay, next we're going to add these, our fireworks bush. For these we only have 5 stems, but it's perfect because we have 5 flowers, and they have great stems for wreath making too. Oops. If the head falls off, just glue it back on. That can happen all the time, no matter the quality of things. There's always little flower heads that pop off. So just glue it back on and it's good to go. And this has such a fun grassy texture. Looking so cute. I love it. We finally got some color going on. So pretty. This has 4 different sections that have berries. So what I'm going to do is take another section from another one so that I have 5 berries. I know I call them berries, but they're like pods. So we'll have 5 in total. And then I'm just going to take these little extra leaves that don't have a pod, and I'm going to use them toward the center to cover up the grapevine a little bit. So we're using one full stem and one piece. And these kind of little extras on stems are great for putting on the inside to cover up that grapevine. So I'm just going to place these in between our fireworks bush pieces. And they do have thicker stems, which are sometimes harder to put into the grapevine. So just try and find a spot that is a little airier, or you can just kind of hold it down until the glue dries. But I'd like it to get a little bit under at least a piece of grapevine. Now I'm just going to take those extra few pieces and just stick them toward the inside of the grapevine to cover up that grapevine a little. It's looking so cute. So for the berries, I like to separate the stem and then kind of fan out the leaves a little bit. So I'm going to have some stick out further where there's a space. So I'm going to have 3 stick out further and then 2 be more in the middle. So the shorter berries I'm going to put more toward the middle. See how we have 3 longer and 2 shorter. I'm just having the longer ones stick out toward the edge. Okay, it's time. I'm putting my anemones in, and then I'll add these last pieces last. So just cut the stems a little bit, and they are kind of foamy. You can always check to make sure it's all connected. But since these are going straight into a grapevine, it'll be fine. You can take the tubing off if you want, and you'll have a smaller, skinnier stem. But I like that these are that lime green color because it goes with the wreath really well. So I'm going to have some of these toward the inside and some toward the outside. All right, so now we're going to add in our daisies. They're so cute. So I have 5 total, plus a little extra one. Just this little one all by itself. So each stem has 4 clusters. And I'm just gonna, and then I have the one from the other stem. So I'll have 5 clusters total, so they'll go nicely in between each of these flowers. And I think these are really gonna pull everything together. And they have that cute yellow middle, which really ties in the yellow from these and the yellow that we're going to add later. This is so cute. It really gives us a cottage garden vibe, which I love. So cute. have that one little extra flower, so I'm just going to add it right there. Just anywhere really is fine. Just going to add it right next to this flower. So fun. And for these, each stem has 3 picks. I'm going to pull the middle one down a little bit to give it a little bit of space so it's not all up there. See how they're all in one clump? If you pull that piece down a little bit, it gives it a little bit more space, so they're spaced out a tiny bit more, but not a lot. So wherever I'm going to add these is going to be wherever I see, like, if it needs some space, if it needs some filler. Oh my goodness, how fun is this wreath? Look how cute it is. What do you think?